So, Mark, where's the fire? I heard we're doing a fireside chat.
Oh, fireside chat. South by Southwest style. There's no fire, but maybe we can create one.
All right.
So I want to give you, expand on that introduction a little bit by giving you a bit more insight on Frog Design. Frog Design was started in 1969 as work on the Sony Walkman and with Apple, very early stage Apple, SAP, Windows XP, and has a very strong digital heritage, which is standout. Now, I think of Frog Design as a design firm, but there's more to what Frog does. They are design and branding and solve problems. They hang their hat on solving problems, and I want to share their mantra with you. Their mantra is design and innovation that advances the human experience, which seems very fitting with what we're doing, of course. I'm joined by Theo, who is the Global VP of Innovation, and he's had articles in Harvard Business Review, IEEE, spoken at TED and at the Mobile World Congress. I just want to set the stage because I think we have a bit of a problem. We've got a bit of a problem because our job is extremely complex. We have a compounded design problem because we're dealing with hardware and software, the UX design, in a very intimate environment. And of course, we've got huge trust issues as well. To really do a good job, we've got to share a lot, not only with the users, but with each other. We need to collaborate. So this is really a compound design problem. And ultimately, I think we need to raise our game because good design is no longer good enough. If we're providing fantastic design, that's what people are going to talk about. That's what's going to do well. And that's what's going to drive this industry forward. So my first question is I wanted to ask you, Theo, what constitutes fantastic design? How can we do fantastic design?
That's a great question. It gets at the heart of Frog and really what drove our founder, Hartmut Essinger, to begin to really rethink the meaning of design. He grew up in Germany in the 60s when the Bauhaus movement was the kind of leading call around how design was done. And it was, their mantra was form follows function. And what Hartmut recast that as is form needs to follow emotion. And from that essence, from that slight twist and understanding that design starts with the human emotion and the human experience, it has played a core to everything Frog has done. And so we believe in human-centric design. We did that with industrial design and the design language we developed for Apple. And as we've evolved to do digital design in the 90s, and what I think of now as convergent experiences, creating experiences, signature experiences for consumers, for businesses that cut across all of your digital and physical touch points. It really is about understanding that brand is not about a logo or a slogan, but what we take away from each interaction with devices, with services, with companies. So great design starts with a very holistic approach to thinking about what kind of experience you want to create for your customer.
And you describe the process as, I believe, discover, design, and develop. Could you walk us through what that would look like?
Yeah. Really at Frog, when we think about our engagement model with clients, we think about it in three broad phases. A discovery phase, where we'll get involved in helping companies do everything from thinking about what their North Star is, what the vision is for their business in 5 to 10 years, to helping them understand unmet or unarticulated user needs, customer needs, either in existing markets or new markets. From that discovery phase, we often move into a design phase that has two halves to it, an aspirational design and designing for manufacturing or design for execution. And when we're fortunate, because we love what we make, we like to work with clients on developing and commercializing the concepting and design work that we do with them.
And I understand you've been working on a project with Disney, which is very intriguing. It's an identification type project. Could you tell us about that?
That is, I think, one of the great examples of how early adoption of wearables can be game-changing for companies. You look at the amusement park, resort industry, and particularly what happened in Orlando in the late 2000s with Harry Potter World opening up. there was an arms race starting, as one client described it, and they were looking to create that experience for their guests in the park. How could that Disney magic be brought to life for the next generation of users? So as guests as young as 10 come into the park, their goal is to make it a generational experience, so when they grow up, they will want to take their kids. And so that was a challenge they had. And they designed what's called the Magic Band. And what it does is it uses RFID technology to do everything from open hotel room doors to allow characters in the park to know your children's names when they go up and hug them. And of course, you pay for things with it, and it creates an incredible amount of digital exhaust that gives insight to what's going on in the park, both in real time and over time, in a way that the company never had access to before.
So, it seems like a real critical element of design is that, and we've heard this in a session session a couple back, that insight is so very important, getting that real deep insight. There's a lot of folks in the room that individually have deep insight from having used apps and wanted to design something that would revolutionize their particular experiences that they consider are broken. But how, you have interdisciplinary teams. That's kind of what I see as your strength, is that you bring together these broad teams. How can we reproduce that? I mean, how can we, what would be your tips for the audience?
Yeah, I think one of the game changers for Frog, if you will, was early on we got design into the boardroom. So it wasn't just the chief executive officer, the chief marketing officer, the chief information and chief strategy officer, and the rest of the CXOs, but we were emphasizing to our clients that to really win in this convergent experience across physical and digital touch points, you needed to create great design. And what we've done at Frog to really accelerate our ability to co-innovate with our clients is develop a set of capabilities that bring together world-class designers, industrial and digital, visual designers, interaction designers, design researchers, and put them in the same room with product strategists, market strategists, business strategists, along with world-class technology and engineering talent. And so where we see that magic happen, what someone talked about earlier as the hook, it isn't necessarily coming from a designer, it could come from anyone on a team, but there are those moments, and often those moments are really revealed to us through our research, our design research, when we're in the field with our target customers and understanding where their unmet needs and their frustrations are. And that could be a technologist who reveals that hook, or a strategist, but what we see the magic in is when we get the technologist to think like a designer, and a designer to think like a strategist, and a strategist to start thinking like a technologist. Those types of interdisciplinary moments create real insights. And one of the things we see in large organizations is they set up silos and sometimes fractions within organizations that don't allow that type of synergy to happen between, let's say, an IT organization and a marketing organization, or a technology organization, where technology is being asked to do more with less. And a business organization is continuing to try and focus on an existing business model to drive out more value from an install base. And an engineering team is trying to apply technology and solutions that haven't been used in a company before. So that creates friction and frustrations that sometimes drive them to what I think of as analysis paralysis, and keeps them from getting off the whiteboard. And so bringing in any design firm, there are many great ones out there, and using them to drive decision making and get through that ideation process, and hopefully through aspirational and designing for execution and then to delivery, can be a really important catalyst.
So you have another very fascinating application and product that you developed for Shanghai.
That's right.
Can you tell us about that and the process that you went through from the genesis of that project?
That's right. So we have studios around the world, and one of the values our clients get from us is the number of locations in which we work in and the number of industries we work in. One of the challenges we took on across our studios a couple years ago was a wearables competition to address a local unmet need. And in the case of our Shanghai studio, they came up with a wearable called the Air Connect. And essentially, it's an air mask with a sensor that's continuously monitoring the level of pollution and air quality for someone who's wearing it anywhere in the city and sending that data to a public cloud database that then's available to every citizen, so that if you're in the city and you want to take your children out for a walk, you actually want to know the air quality in different parts of the city at any time of day. And so this has been a very exciting type of innovative solution that we now have a number of partners who are looking to bring it to market in the next year.
So one of the hurdles that we have to deal with a lot, of course, is trust. I really consider what are the wearable computer platforms going to look like in the future, and they're going to be built on sharing a lot of very deep and intimate data. The industry that I've worked with for the last 10 years is the internet dating industry, and the reason I'm here is I want to bridge between the two industries, because ultimately I see a lot of the data you're collecting could be used in algorithms for matchmaking. And so, I'm really interested to know how you think we can build trust. How can we kind of earn this trust to be able to work together more and, grow together?
Yeah, I think one of the really interesting, and as far as I can tell, yet fully tapped opportunities with wearables is you can bring together 3 different sectors or spheres of data and insight in a way that we haven't been able to before. And what I'm thinking about here is social networking data, contextual data about what an individual is doing, and biometric data. And so there's an opportunity that I haven't seen any company yet fully realize the potential of. And the way we are able to do that is by having trusted brands, becoming what I think of as listening companies. Disney has the brand equity to be able to have guests who trust that brand to let them share their location anywhere in their resort. Now, as you begin to think about what are the truly disruptive types of products and services that have come to market over the last decade, what we're seeing is it takes 3 fundamental shifts. And the most successful companies have been able to capitalize on each of those. When they get a new business model to work in tandem with new technology and a new user experience, you create disruption in an industry that hasn't been there before. So think about what Google has done, what Facebook has done, what Amazon has done. There were many MP3 players, for example, before Apple brought out the iPod. Each of them innovated in a business model in tandem with a technology innovation and a user experience. And when you do that and you're able to build the trust from the user so that what they're giving up in terms of personal data is new forms of value or a magical experience such as Mickey Mouse knowing my name, then you're seeing these types of breakthrough moments.
So it seems we're getting a lot of pickup in the health segment. Of course, Apple's introduced their new health app, so we're probably going to see a lot more attention around health and these wearable devices that track running and sleeping and heart rate and what have you. What would you say, what advice would you have for someone who's developing specifically something that, a band, something that's going to beat a jawbone up? What advice would you have for members of the audience that want to focus on health?
Well, to be honest with you, I really think we're in the wearable industry where we were in the MP3 player industry before the iPod ever shipped. So a lot of people bought MP3 players, they used them for a little while, and they ended up on a shelf. And we're seeing a similar type of data around wearables. Most people buy a wearable, and after about 90 days, they start gathering dust on a shelf. And my personal view is that what's happening is we're creating lots of personal data warehouses, and we're not able to get any real insight out of them. And so the actual type of value that people are expecting from these wearables just isn't there yet. And so how do you begin to create an experience and insight and value for me or for anyone else who purchased ones that goes beyond logging how many steps we've taken, how many calories we've burned? How does that help me improve my life? When can we begin to see wearables have an impact that is seamless, that moves us beyond from what I call the palm reading culture that we've created over the last decade with our smartphones. So when will we see something that's truly breakthrough that will get me further away from the palm reading experience that we're all doing, many of us right now, and probably the most successful wearable, the one we carry with us all the time in our pocket, is going to be when we create moments of value and experience that move us beyond just data and cataloging our movement and sleep patterns.
You don't like this palm reading experience, do you?
You know, when I talk to clients, it is clear to me that it is now the first screen. We talk about this multi-screen world that we live in. Well, we have moved beyond the laptop and the desktop as being our primary screen, and it is now the one that we take with us all the time. Whether one likes it or not, it is here to stay. It is the target development platform for almost all the clients I work with. I was at a regional summit for the World Economic Forum in Latin America. I met with over 50 clients in a week, and each one of them wanted to talk to me about only one thing, which is how to tap into an exploding middle class through smartphone experiences.
So we've got a couple of minutes left, actually, a minute and a half. Does anybody have any burning questions? Can we take any questions from the audience? If you do have a question, come up front. We've got a minute and a half. So I'd like to leave it on, the question I'd like to ask you to close out is, how can we do fantastic design on a budget? The folks that have got, you know, they've raised $500,000 funding, but they still want to disrupt the space. What advice would you have for the more budget-conscious folks?
Well, I think we've heard it from many speakers over the last 2 days. You're going to get your best insights from those target users who have a passion around what you're trying to do, whether they're people who are contributing through Kickstarter or Indigo, or your peers or your colleagues. You're going to get more value from them than you are from any of the coders or engineers that you hire. And I think the trap that a lot of companies have fallen into since the beginning of the technical revolution is doing engineering for engineering's sake. And I think making sure that you're solving a real human need before you write a line of code or design a prototype couldn't be more important. And what we're also seeing is firms like Frog and IDEO and many others are all creating their ventures arm. We have Frog Ventures. We're looking to partner with startups and work with them on making sure they're creating great products. And in fact, many of our clients today are increasingly becoming virtual organizations. They realize that they can't attract and retain the top talent in many of the disciplines that they need, so they partner with clients and they partner with other firms like Frog and world-class engineering firms to get the insights and help them bring products to market. So that's another approach to developing a business model and successfully launching a product in what is increasingly a shorter and shorter life cycle.
Great. Thank you very much, Theo. Theo Forbath is the Global VP of Innovation for Frog Design, and I'm Mark Brooks. I run Wearable.ai, which we basically summarize the news for you on a daily basis. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.